in the frame of the Mostra sui veleni, and he will talk about il cielo velenoso, poison in the sky.
Poison in the sky.
Okay, the seminar tonight will be in Italian.
There is poison in the sky.
There is poison in the sky. Okay, so it's very fascinating, and we want to leave space for him to discuss about, to present these nice seminars, and of course Andrea is very happy to have your questions of any kind, so you can stop him or you can ask questions afterwards. We're very happy. Stefano? Attenzione a mamma.
Sì, non vado.
Okay, so Andrea, can maybe switch on the light.
So first of all, I want to thank you, Professor Eleonora Paris, for inviting me for coming here for this seminar. This is a great opportunity for me, and I want to thank you for being here. You have decided to listen to what I have to say, and so this is very important for me. And first of all, I want to beg your pardon for my English. Obviously, I'm Italian, so my English is not so good. I think that everybody here is from different part of the world, so I don't know if there is some some English mother tongue people here, but in that case, please forgive me for my English. So I'm a physicist, and I work in an astronomical observatory, and I'm here because I want to speak to you about Galileo Galilei. Galileo Galilei is the father of modern astronomy. More than this, he is the father of modern science, one of the founding fathers of modern science. And so, even if you are studying geology and maybe you are not interested in stars, constellation, galaxy, planets, and so on, but Galileo Galilei is a scientist that you have to know, because the way in which we work today in every field of science has something to do with the work that he did in the past. Okay? And this is a special moment to speak about Galileo Galilei, because in February there was a very important anniversary, the 450th anniversary of his birth. So happy birthday, Galileo! And he is obviously so this can help also to understand you the time in which Galileo lived. He is the father of modern science, but one of the fathers of modern science. When they say modern science, I'm talking all the process of the birth of modern science, not someone who is our contemporary, not someone who has lived in 20th century. We are talking about someone who has lived in 17th century. So many centuries ago. Many for us, but this time is not so far if we think about the effect of his works, also to the work that we are doing now in our time. So he is people from the past, but his work is very important for us also today. And by the way, he is Italian. At the time where he lived, there was not Italy as a country, as a nation, as we know it today. Italy was divided in different nations, very little countries and so on. And from the political point of view, he was not Italian, because there was not Italy at the time, but he is Italian from the point of view of culture, of tradition, of the language, and so on. So from this point of view, he is also right for who is Italian to know more about Galileo Galilei, because he is a sort of hero of our country for the science, for the field of science, and for who is coming from other parts of the world, is important to listen about something about Galileo Galilei here in Italy, that is his land. Okay? This is the place where I work, in the astronomical observatory of the autonomous region of the Aosta Valley. Aosta Valley is a very small Italian region, the smallest Italian region actually, and it is in the northwestern part of our country, of Italy, at the border with France, when there is the famous Mont Blanc, the highest mountain in continental Europe. And on the top of one of these mountains there is this astronomical observatory, and it has been built there because, you know, you can see in this picture, that is a night picture, all the stars that you can see there. It's a special place where more than 50% days of the year the sky is clear, not like today, so there are no clouds, and so you have the possibility to look at the stars and to study them. And it is also a place very far from big cities, and so there is no the so-called light pollution. I mean light of our artificial lights that can spread their light in the sky, where this light is useless because we have to see where we work, and we work not in the sky but on the ground. So light must go only on the ground where we work, where we live, and so on. But there is also this way of pollution, because it is a pollution, because it is light that we are not using in the right way, because it is spread in the sky, and so we can see the stars, because during the night the sky is dark and the stars are white, are clearer than the sky. But if there is light pollution, the sky is no more dark, and so you cannot notice the stars because there is not enough contrast. Okay, so this is a special place here in Italy when we have few light pollution. Light pollution is spread all over Europe. There is no place in Europe with no light pollution at all. And the very big and important astronomical observatories of our days are built in special places in the world, deserts and mountains, where light pollution is almost zero. And in these places it is important to build big telescopes, because there you can see at the stars in a very good way. Okay, this is not one of these places. This is not the best place to look at the stars in the world. For being in Italy and Europe, it is a good place for looking at the stars. And there we work with several scientific research projects about astronomy, obviously. Any question until now? This is only an introduction to understand why I'm talking to Galileo, because he is a very important scientist. He is one of the founders of our modern way of doing science, and because I'm a physicist working in an astronomical observatory. Any questions? Okay, so let's talk about Galileo Galilei. We can see an old picture of when Galileo Galilei was more or less 40 years old, the same age of me, more or less now. And at the time he was professor at the University of Padua in northeastern Italy. He is from Tuscany, but he was working at the University of Padua. It is not another town that is original town, that is Pisa. At the time, Pisa and Padua were in two different countries, because there was not the Italian country as we know it now. And so in a certain sense he was a foreign worker, okay? He was working in a country that was not his original country at the time. And he was a professor of mathematics, and he was very famous because he was one of the most important scientists of his time all across Europe. And but he was one of the important scientists of his time. He was not the scientist as we know him today. He was not so important as to be considered one of the founders of the modern way of doing science. He will become so important because of his study in astronomy. So astronomy is one of the reasons, in my opinion, the most important reason his work in astronomy are the most important reason for which Galileo now is considered so important. And for we can also notice that his name is Galileo Galilei, but I'm not talking about him by calling him with his surname Galilei. I'm talking about him with his name, Galileo. This is, in a certain sense, a way of doing that there is here in Italy. With persons, with people who is very important for our culture here in Italy, we have the habit, you are used to call them with their name, by their original name. The famous poet Dante Alighieri, we call him Dante. The famous painter and scientist Leonardo da Vinci, we call him Leonardo. And the same with Michelangelo, with Donatello. In a certain sense, as these people also, if they are people from a very far past, they are friends next to us in this moment. And so we are used to call them with their name here in Italy. This is an Italian tradition that in a certain sense also not all the Italians are aware of this. For them it is normal, for much of it, for many Italians is normal to call Galileo with his name. And if you meet English people, he called Newton, Newton. He does not call him Isaac, to say. Okay. So this is something that can help us to understand what I want to say now. Why? In which way Galilei, with his surname, has become Galileo? So it's so important that we are so used to talk about him that we can call him with his name, thanks to the astronomy. And so we have to talk about astronomy at the time of Galileo Galilei. And he was a professor of mathematics. And now I'm showing you a movie, and in this movie we can see what Galileo was teaching to his students in Padua, the University of Padua, about the universe, about the cosmos. This was the idea of universe and cosmos at the time in which Galileo lived. The cosmos, we can see in this movie, made by a colleague of us from the planetarium in Milan. In this movie we can see that, oh sorry, ok, proviamo questo altro testo? Neanche questo, ok. Allora, in this movie, that now we restart, okay, we can see that first of all we have the Earth. At the time Earth was not a planet. For us today Earth is one of the planets of the solar systems, orbiting around the Sun. At the time, people believed that Earth was not moving. Earth was still at the center of the universe. Why do they believe this? Well, because if you think about what you can see with your eyes, we have no sensation of Earth moving. Okay, if you don't think about earthquakes, obviously. We have no sensation of the movement of Earth, so it is natural to think that Earth is still. On the contrary, we can see the sun during the day rising and setting, the stars during the night rising and setting, and the planets that are visible with the naked eye rising and setting. So the idea is that what we can see with our eyes, without other instruments, is something that is coherent with this moving. The Earth is still at the center of the cosmos, and everything is moving around our Earth. In fact, we can see the sky moving in a circular movement, with the sun, the moon, the planets, the stars rising and setting. This was an idea that here in Western culture has been proposed already at the time of ancient Greeks. The name of the very important Greek philosopher Aristotle can help us to understand that this idea was an idea that was not invented at the time of Galileo. It was invented millennia before Galileo. And before the Greeks, the same idea was developed by people living in Babylonia or living in Egypt. So, from this point of view, this way of conceiving the universe, with the Earth still and everything moving around the Earth, was a very ancient idea. It was taught in school, in the university, from the teacher to the students. It has been taught for millennia, thousands of years. I want to stress this thing because it is very important. Thousands of years. I mean, if you take with a time machine Aristotle from his time, and if you bring with a fancy in a sort of science fiction novel Aristotle to meet Galileo, they can speak the same language about the model of the universe. Okay? So this is something that has been very important for at the time, because it was an idea of the universe, of the cosmos, that was lasting that has been proposed millennia before Galileo Galilei, and accepted by everyone for centuries and millennia, for hundreds and thousands of years. Okay? But with Galileo there was something new, and I stressed that the model of the universe, with everything circling the Earth, that was not a planet. The Earth was the Earth, something at the center of the cosmos. Planet means something that is wandering in the sky. So at the time, the sun was a planet because it was moving around the Earth. The moon was a planet because it was moving around the Earth. Okay? So from this point of view, Earth, also from a geological point of view, was something very different from the rest of the universe. There was the Earth, our home, our world, and then there was the rest of the universe. There was this big difference. The Earth from one side, all the rest of the universe from the other side. It was a difference due to the experience, because I can see in the sky everything moving, and I do not notice any movement of our planet, of our Earth. It was not a planet at that time. So, the model that we have seen before was something very important, not only from the point of view of explaining the way in which the sky was moving. It was also a model stating a difference between the Earth and everything else in the cosmos. Okay? Because the Earth was still and everything was orbiting, was moving around the Earth. So, also from a physical point of view, from a geological point of view, the studio of Earth was something. The studio of the celestial areas was something else. Two different things. Okay? This is very important. This is very important to understand why with Galileo there was something very new. A sort of revolution. Okay, when you talk about some very special event, you talk always about revolution. And I don't know if we can use the word revolution that now is used for everything, and also in history of science. But in this picture, that is a picture made by an artist, obviously it is not a picture of a photograph of Galileo Galilei, because at the time there was no the camera. But here we can see Galileo Galilei looking at the sky not with the naked eye, or not only with the naked eye, but with an instrument. An instrument that you can call the telescope, but I prefer to use this English word, spyglass, because in Italian there are two words for describing for these instruments that are cannocchiale and telescopio. And so I prefer to use this instrument, the spyglass, and now I want to explain you what I mean with this term. It is an English term. In this picture we can see Galileo Galilei looking with an instrument, not the naked eye, at the sky, and a lot of papers at his feet. Obviously this is an artist, the conception of an artist of Galileo working. But in this picture it is very important to notice two things. First of all, Galileo looking upwards through an instrument, no more than naked eye. And he discovers, and he is shocked by what he was seeing through that instrument. And he wants to take notice, he wants to write what he was looking, what he was discovering. And all these papers at his feet are a way through which the artist wants to tell us that he has the need to write and to explain what he was discovering. And he felt a sort of urgency to do that, because he was aware that he was seeing something that has never been seen before him. Or this was his idea. And in fact, now I want to talk to you about the discoveries of Galileo Galilei through the words of Galileo Galilei, because he published in 1610 a work that in Latin, that was the language of ancient Roman. It was the language of science at the time. Now the language of science is English. At the time it was Latin. Okay? And this book is called Sidereus Nuncius in Latin. We can translate it in English with the stereo messenger. In a certain sense, Galileo Galilei is a messenger. And what is the message? The message is what Galileo Galilei has discovered looking at the sky through the spyglass. Perspicillum is the Latin word with which Galileo called the spyglass. Okay, And from this moment until the end of this presentation, we will look at the pages of this book, and we will understand with Galilei's own words which are these discoveries and why they are so important. First of all, I don't know, I think that most of you know of the difficulties and the problems that Galileo Galilei had with the Roman Catholic Church about his discoveries. These difficulties that are very important for the history of science, but probably also for the history of culture and knowledge in Europe, also not in the field of science, at the beginning of the astronomical works of Galileo were not present. This book, in which Galileo Galilei writes about his discoveries, and the official permission to be printed given by the Roman Catholic Church. The reasons for which Galileo Galilei was judged by the Roman Catholic Church were already written here in this book. Everything. But at the beginning of his works, these ideas, these discoveries, his suggestions, his hypotheses were not considered as dangerous for the Roman Catholic faith. So this can help us to understand that probably when we talk about Galileo Galilei and his problems with the Church, we are not talking about problems of faith and science. We are talking about problem of politics and science, because the Roman Catholic Church at the time was a very important country, a powerful country, with a lot of influence in Europe. And the ideas of Galileo were considered dangerous from a political point of view, not from a religious point of view. I mean, there were problems from a religious point of view, but probably they were the mask for the real reasons that were political reasons. It is very difficult to speak about Galileo Galilei in the Church. It's something that is discussed also today by science philosophers, historians, and some people that studies the problem more than me, so I don't want to talk about that. But I want only to let you know that at the beginning of this work there were no problems. In fact, it is the official permission of the Roman Catholic Church. Everything that is written in this book has no problem with the faith, with the Roman Catholic faith. So, then we can talk about science. The spyglass, the instrument that is used to Galileo Galilei for looking at the star, to look at the stars. Many people believe that the spyglass, the first telescope, was invented by Galileo Galilei. This is not true. In which way can we say that? Because at the beginning of the book, Galileo Galilei explained us in which way he has built his spyglass. And he received a letter from a friend of him, and in this letter there was written that in Holland, Netherlands today, it was very popular an instrument with two lenses made of glass, and looking through these two lenses, one after the other, objects that are far from us look like they are, look as they are closer to us, and so we can see them better and bigger. In which way this instrument was used at the time? It was used for sailing, to see the coast when you are on a boat, so you have no problem with the coast and so on. It was used by the hermits, so you can see your enemies arriving and you can prepare for the arrival of the enemy. And the term spyglass in English is very amusing because there was another use that was very popular at the time. It was using the spyglass to look through the window in the houses of people living near you, your neighbors. Because at the time there was no television, and so they had to find a way to spend their time, and so now there is a Big Brother. At the time they do Big Brother to the spy glasses through which you can spy something. Okay, perfect. And nobody knows who has invented the spyglass or the telescope. And this, many people, when with Galileo the spyglass became something very important, a lot of people, I invented it, okay, I have invented it. Okay, perfect. But we have no idea of who was the real inventor, the real father of this instrument. And this can help us understand that who has invented the telescope, the spyglass, did not realize the power of this instrument. It was with Galileo that it became very clear that this instrument was very powerful. To do that, to do what? For looking on the Earth, for sailing, for war, for spying other people and so on, but also for looking at the heavens, for looking at the sky. And Galileo Galilei was not the inventor of the telescope. When he read this letter from his friend, he built a spyglass with his own hands. But there is not a theory of the spyglass made by Galileo Galilei, because he was used to work with hands, not only with mind. So, with trials and errors, he built his model of spyglass. And he was so able that in May of the year 1609, Galileo was not aware of the existence of the spyglass, and in October 1609, so 6 months later, he was able to build the best telescopes all across Europe. Okay, so he was very able, but there was not a theory of optics to understand in which way the spyglass can work. This is everything Galileo tells us about the spyglass. At the beginning of the book, a sketch of a spyglass. Because what is important for Galileo is what he can look through the spyglass. The first thing that he wanted to look was obviously the moon. No? One of the most important celestial objects. Everybody knows about the moon, not only the astronomers. And Galileo was born in Tuscany, so he was also very able in drawing, not only in science, in mathematics, in physics, but also in drawing. And this was very important because he understood a lot of what he saw through the telescopes thanks to his drawings. The drawings of what he was seeing through this instrument. Looking at the moon, please notice, okay, this is a particular phase of our satellite, what we today know that is our satellite, the natural satellite of Earth. Here there is sunlight coming from this point of view, so here we have a part of the moon that is illuminated by the sun, this is dark. But Galileo noticed that the line dividing the part of the moon receiving the sunlight from the part that is dark is not a perfect line, a circular line. But you see that it is segmented in a certain sense. And looking through the spyglass and looking at this drawing, Galileo understood that this is the scenery of mountains that are receiving light from the sun. Here is the side receiving the light, and here is the sun that is the other side that is in the shadow. So these are light and shadows on the moon. And through this drawing, Galileo was able to understand that the moon was not with a smooth surface. And today this can seem strange to us, but at the time everybody believed that the surface of the moon was smooth, because you cannot see mountains on the moon with the naked eye. And so the idea was that all the celestial objects in the sky, the sun, the moon, the planets, the stars, were perfect spheres with nothing on their surfaces. On the contrary, Galileo Galilei can see with his eyes that there are mountains on the moon. This white point there, in the dark side of the moon, to walk in Florida, these white points, in which way are interpreted by Galileo Galilei? These are the top of the mountains that are near the line of the border of the side that is receiving light from the sun and the side that is in the shadow. But these mountains are so high that their tops can receive the last rays coming from the sun. So this is not a mistake in the drawing or in the printing of the drawing. This is something that Galileo has seen. And so Galileo can state something that is very important, that the moon has valleys and mountains on its surface exactly like the Earth. And if we are talking about the mountains, we can talk also about the valleys that now we call craters. Look, sunlight in this drawing is coming from there. Here there are mountains, the border of the valley, of the crater, so there is shadow inside, and then the other side is receiving sunlight again. So we can understand it from this drawing exactly that there is a deep valley there. I mean, this is important because at the time everybody believed that the moon, the sun, every celestial objects were spheres with no features on their surface. On the contrary, Galileo can tell that there are these features, and this is something very new. I mean, since the time of Babylonia and of the Egyptians, the ancient Egyptians, that all the celestial objects were believed to be spheres. So it was an idea that has millennia of age. But with Galileo is discovering something new. This idea was so important that there has been other people looking with their spyglass at the moon before Galileo Galilei. For example, the English scientist Thomas Elliot. Here we can compare a drawing of the moon made by Elliot in the summer of 1609 and the drawing of the moon made by Galilei in the autumn of 1609. So Elliot arrived before Galileo Galilei with the spyglass that he used in England. But I don't know if you have heard about Elliot before then. So obviously he's not so famous. He was a very important scientist of his time. But looking only at the drawings, we can understand something that is very important. Please notice that there are no shadows in the drawing by Elliot, because he believed in a very deep way that the surface of the moon was totally smooth, and so he saw the same features of the moon that saw Galileo Galilei, but he has the idea that the surface of the moon was smooth, so he did not understood what he was looking at. This is the real reason for which Galileo Galilei is so important. He has not invented the spyglass. We don't know who is the real inventor of the spyglass. He was not the first scientist to look at the moon with a spyglass. Thomas Elliot was before him. But he was the first to understand what he was looking through the spyglass. And it was the first to understand that this was a new instrument giving us new knowledge. And that what has been believed for millennia now has to be changed. Not because a philosopher, a poet, someone has decided that now things are different, but because he was looking these things are different through the spyglass. And everybody can check it, because everybody can look through a spyglass. In fact, Galileo Galilei at the time, he was living near Venice. He went in the more important squares of Venice with his spyglass, stopping people during a night and telling them, please look through the spyglass. You can see valley mountains of the moon. The moon has no valleys and mountains. The moon is a perfect sphere. Look, check by yourself. You can look to the spyglass. This is the way, the reason for which Galileo Galilei is so important. Not the invention of the spyglass, not the first time someone is look at the moon through the spyglass, but he was the first to understand what he was looking through the spyglass. When Elliot saw the drawings by Galileo Galilei, he was very sad and ashamed in a certain sense, because he said, I didn't understand what I was looking at. So, about the moon, there is something that is very important to say, and is something that is very important also for who is studying our planet, the Earth, as people, students of geology, because looking at the mountains, Galileo tried to understand the height of the mountains of the moon, how much must be the height of a mountain so that sunlight can reach the top of the mountain. Here in the place where here there is sunlight, so this is a place where there is sunlight coming from the moon. This is one of the top of the mountains receiving the last sun rays, so that we can see that white spot in the dark side. Do you remember the drawing that we've seen before? And so he tried to measure this height using trigonometry, and he succeeded. And more or less the heights of several kilometers that he has calculated were confirmed now that we have space probes orbiting the moon. And from this point of view, this is another revolution. Because, if you remember, at the beginning I have said that at the time, for millennia, Earth has been considered something that was different from the rest of the cosmos. There was Earth and there were stars, the planets, the rest of the universe. But if you have on the moon valleys and mountains exactly like the valley and mountains of our planet, the Earth, then there is no more this difference. There is no need for this difference. At the beginning there was a need because Earth was still and everything was orbiting around the Earth. But now there is not this need, because we have seen valleys and mountains also on the moon, like on the Earth, as on the Earth. So we can apply the same way of measuring the area of the mountain with the trigonometry that we use here on Earth, also on the Moon. So, this is another revolution, because we can study the rest of the universe. It is not something that is so far and so different, so we cannot say anything about that. No, we can study and we can measure it. This is why Galileo Galilei is so important. Galileo Galilei, and we're next to the conclusion, Galileo Galilei, with his discoveries, was not able to show that the idea of the Earth still and everything moving around the Earth was wrong. Before Galileo Galilei, in the century before Galileo Galilei, the Polish astronomer Copernicus, working only with the naked eye, has proposed his famous model of the Earth moving around the Sun. So the Earth moving around the Sun. And Galileo Galilei was a follower of this idea of Copernicus. With these discoveries of the Moon, with the use of the spyglass, he has not enough data to show that this idea was right, that actually Earth is orbiting around the Sun. This was not possible with these instruments. But he can say we have to rethink about all our knowledge about astronomy, because not because the ancient people had said silly things and so on. Galileo was very respectful of the Greek philosophers and all the culture of the past. He was a teacher. He was living teaching this culture of the past. So he was very respectful of these ideas. But now, he said, we have a new instrument, the spyglass, through which we can discover something that is new. So he wants to update this culture. He is not trashing them. He is not putting this culture in the trash. He wants to update this culture. And this is his idea of discovering a new system of the world. Through the spyglass, we can check. We have a new instrument through which we can check the system of the world. I mean, the system of the universe. And this is the important. This is an important sentence that is stated in this book, for which Galileo Galilei will be judged in the following years. But at the time, this sentence was not cause of any problem at the beginning. In few years, okay, but at the beginning there were no problems. To end this presentation with the telescopes, with the spyglass, Galileo Galilei has looked also at other things than the Moon. He looked at the stars and he discovered a lot of stars that were not visible to the naked eye. In this way, the stars that are drawing, that he is drawing bigger, are stars that are visible with the naked eye. And these stars that he is drawing with a less size are not visible to the naked eye. They are visible only with the spyglass. So there are stars that are not visible to the naked eye. There is something new also from the point of view of the stars. And we can also check how Galileo was able to draw, because we can do a comparison of this drawing with a modern picture of this cluster of stars, the so-called Pleiades. This is a picture taken at our astronomical observatory in the Australia. And the last important discovery of Galileo Galilei was the discovery of the satellites of Jupiter. He looked at the planet Jupiter, and first of all he discovered that what with the naked eye was only a point, with the telescope became a circle. So the planet was something bigger than a point. But there were 4 stars that every night were very close to the planets, but every night the stars have different positions. So Galileo Galilei, looking at these stars near the planet Jupiter, and this is all the data that is taken about the position of these stars. So he understood that he was looking at something that was near to the planet Jupiter for a very important reason, because they were stars circling around our planet Jupiter. This is a model animation through which we can see the different data taken by Galileo Galilei, the planet Jupiter, the stars, and every night you can see it's changing, the date is changing, and also the position of the stars is changing, but they are always next to the planet Jupiter. So they are satellites of this planet, something that is circling around the planet Jupiter. This is something very new, because at the time everybody believed that everything was orbiting around the Earth. The Earth was still at the center of the cosmos, and everything was orbiting, circling around the Earth. This is not true, because there are the satellites orbiting, circling Jupiter. And it is not an invention, an hypothesis. I have seen it through my spyglass. So Galileo can write that in his books. And everybody can check that there are these satellites. I want to stress again, Galileo, with this observation, is not able, he has not enough data, he has not enough proofs to say, so we can say that the idea that the Earth is still and everything is orbiting the Earth is wrong. But he is saying through these things, through these observations, we have, in a certain sense, the duty to rethink of everything we know about the sky and the universe, because we have new instrumentation to study the skies, and we can collect new data. So to finish this presentation, because now this is a modern impression of these satellites of Jupiter, taken by the space probe called a NASA space probe called Galileo Galilei. So the space probe studying Jupiter from the orbit of the planet, and also the satellites has been named with the same name of this important scientist. So we have arrived to the end of the book, and also to the end of this presentation. And Galileo Galilei is, if you read this book, The Starry Messenger, you can feel, first of all, two things. Is happiness to have discovered something new, not only from the point of view of the discovery, but also from the point of view of a new way of working, a new instrumentation, the spyglass, a new way of collecting data, the observations. And you can feel also the happiness that he has in telling these new things to everyone. He wants everyone to know about that, because he wants to share this knowledge. And this is very important, because instrumentation, way of collecting data and sharing knowledge today are the basis of the scientific way of working of every field of science. Instrumentation, collecting data to check the hypothesis, and then share your conclusions. This is the beginning of the modern way of doing science, and we owe that to Galileo Galilei. Also, if you are a geologist, also if you are not looking at the stars with the modern instrumentation like the telescopes that we used at our astronomical observatory, and we can see an animation of these robotic telescopes looking at different stars in the sky. Obviously, these are very different from the spyglass used by Galileo Galilei that he was holding in his hands, staying awake at night during the autumn and the winter in northern Italy. So he became ill because of the cold weather in which he was working, and so on. And this presentation in the PDF format is already available. Is already available on the website of the Unicamert working group, with which I work as a PhD student. So everybody can download it, and here there are also the references. If you want to know more about the Starry Messenger, there is a well-made page of Wikipedia. Here you can see the wonderful scans of the original edition that I have projected of this book of Galileo Galilei, the Starry Messenger, and here you can find also the movies about the ancient way of thinking of the cosmos and the satellite of Jupiter, and also other movies of astronomical interest. So I want to thank you for your attention. I'm sorry I'm 10 minutes late, but we have started the lesson. And thank you for surviving my English. Obviously, if there are questions, I'm here. If you want to go to your lunch, obviously.
Okay, if you are late for lunch, you can, if you want to ask something to Andrea, it's going to be available now, but it's also going to be available tonight at 9 at the museum for the second seminar on the poisoning sky.
Exactly.
Okay, so
in Italian.
If you are interested
in Italian.
Okay, that's in Italian. But if the weather is good for if the sky is clear, there will be
If the clouds will